Hello, everyone, and welcome to my data analysis project in Tableau. And this project is based on the topic of strategic AI intervention, the risk and sustainability framework. That's the title of this project. And what I want to do in this particular project is try to find out a way for a particular client to invest into AI into their various business units. So our client is a board of directors for a multinational company that is trying to make a decision about investing AI into their various business units, such as retail, healthcare, manufacturing, gaming, so on and so forth. And they're trying to understand whether this kind of investment is actually good or not for that particular company, and whether this huge amount of an investment, the amount being $100 million, is particularly okay for the kind of industries that they have their hands dipped into, and whether or not they should be going forward with this decision or not. So this data has been collected from various public surveys, industry reports, research publications, and many other such articles. So our main stakeholders in this particular project are the CFO, the CHRO, and the CMO. So as you can all guess, the CFO is the person who is willing to maximize their revenue and AI adoption at any means. They are not very keen on what needs to be done or whatever is necessary in order to get these steps underway. At the same time, we have the CHRO, or the person who is responsible for human resources, or in layman's terms, just the employees of a company, who fears that AI adoption could cause massive job displacement, as if a company is trying to automate a process by using AI, the person who is actually manually doing that process will no longer be needed. That is kind of like the hysteria or the fear that is in the mind of the CHRO. And then we have the third person, which is the CMO, who's looking at the optics of the situation. He's trying to understand if they, as a company, move too fast in the AI integration while the world moves in a different direction, then it could destroy their consumer base. And the trust with it that they have developed within the consumer base over the number of years that they have been in operation could be destroyed. So these three individuals are our main stakeholders. And as a part of the client base, they have come to us, a global consulting firm, for a solution, and for that, they have provided us with this data set that we had required from them. And I will just get into the data set now. So as we look at this particular data set that is on your screen, it is all the countries, it mentions all the countries that this company has operations going on in right now. And for this particular project, I wanted to baseline the data set starting at the year 2020. Um, there is not necessarily anything too unique about the year, but the only thing being that the first time we, as regular human beings, got to know about AI, or we heard rumblings about something known as AI, was in 2020 when GPT-3 model was announced and it rolled out. So that is kind of what my inspiration behind this year was. And from that up until now, which is 2025, is when I have described as the range for this particular project. The industries, as you can see on the screen, are media, legal, automotive, gaming, retail, education, healthcare. So I have taken 10 industries and I have taken 10 countries just so we can maintain a uniformity in terms of what kind of analysis we will be doing on this project. And next, we move on to the top AI tools used in those particular countries. Now, as we go through this entire data set, you will figure out, or you will understand, that all these different companies have their own specific go-to AI tool, whether it's for a for a particular industry, or if it's for some other industry, and what kind of tools have they been using. And next, we move on to regulation status. This is one of the most important columns in this particular data set, according to me, because one of the visualizations that I have created in this particular project is based on regulation status. And as you may be aware, different countries have different laws, and different laws bring different issues and different hurdles, obstacles in terms of being able to implement a pan world policy. So, so as you can see, regulation status is divided into three broad categories: strict, moderate, and lenient. Next, we go on to AI adoption rate in percentage. A lot of the data that you see in this particular spreadsheet will be based on percentage values, just because we want to quantify it in a way that, you know, it makes sense to both the high level individuals and individuals who are trying to get into this particular field. So a percentage value of being able to generalize how much that particular category has been adopted or being used or being talked about or being the volume of that data being generated. So that is why adoption rate is percentage. Now we move on to, I will just quickly run through the other columns as well. So first off, we have the AI generated content volume, which is terabytes per year. Then we have job loss due to AI, another important column in this particular data set. Revenue increase due to AI, probably the most important one because everybody just follows money, and it's just such a common element in talking about AI and where exactly is the money flowing. And that kind of is the basis of this project as well, being able to find out how much investment is actually going to be sustainable for this particular company, to the point where it doesn't lead us to some difficult decisions down the road. And next, we have human AI collaboration rate. This is sort of like another tier two level of data that we had collected through these different publications. Human AI collaboration rate would be defined as the synergy between humans and AIs in that particular industry, in that particular country, and how well can these two elements come together in order to create value for that particular business in that particular geographical location. Consumer trust in AI, also in percentage, also, really boils down the aspect of this project that, anything and everything that this company does is going to be for the people, for the consumers, for the people who are in various in various markets and in various countries, just deriving value or getting value from this particular company, from that particular business unit. So what percentage of trust do they have in AI in that particular category is something that is being measured in this particular column. And then we get to the last column, which is market share of AI companies. Again, something that has not been necessarily explored in this particular project, but is definitely something to look at in terms of the tertiary analysis that I could have done. But in the interest of time, I have kept it restricted to what I have. So now let's move on to what the actual data visualization is looking like. So I have come up with three data visualizations. First is a scatter plot, the second is a box and whisker plot, and the third is a heat map. So I'll start off with the first one, and which is basically the most simple data visualization that could be made for this particular project, which would be money versus the jobs that people hold at this point in time, and how much money is increasing due to AI's involvement in that particular industry and in that particular country, versus how much job loss is happening due to AI. And on a first glance, you can definitely see that, a lot of people or a lot of companies, our clients, for example, would be interested in knowing about the high revenue, actors or high revenue industries, or which industries are generating the most profit due to AI being involved in them. So as you can see, there is an average line of 61.68%, which was noted across all the data entries that we had in this particular data set. And beyond that, whatever industries and countries are there. So So the CFO would particularly be interested in only the values that are above this line, maybe not that interested in the values below it. But yeah, so because of that, we will be looking at these two particular sections in our focus. As you can see now on the right hand side, we have sort of like the most interesting values that I would like to say. And like it says in the detail, I've just picked up one bubble in specific, and it's nothing to do with in terms of logic, but this particular bubble shows the country of Australia and the industry being automotive. So the automotive industry in Australia for this particular company and what kind of revenue they are seeing ever since AI has been rolled out or AI will be rolled out into them. So we see that there is a 67% revenue increase due to AI in this particular category, but there is also a 64.8% of job loss that is happening due to AI. So that is a huge loss. A 64% or 65% of loss in your workforce just to be able to increase your revenue by 67% sounds like a huge loss. And if we were to recommend, or if somebody was to recommend these values to the CFO, they would definitely be looking at a huge loss on their part in the Australian market. So definitely something to stay away from. So what we're essentially trying to do is balance profit versus displacement and trying to figure out sort of like uh, a golden corridor or a golden area where we not only have the increase of revenue, but we also have a little less job displacement so that we can keep all the different moving parts of this company in balance and we can move towards the investment or like this investment project can move to the next step. So so that is how this particular section would be defined. Now I would like to move to the left hand side of this particular scatter plot, which is kind of like the investment zone or the zone that we have found out to be the zone where everything good is honestly going to happen. So in this particular zone, as you can see, there are a couple of bubbles. All of them are clustered together in this particular 70s to 80s percentage of range. And again, taking another example of Australia. So in the legal industry, they have seen a 74.6% revenue increase due to AI, and at the same time, not a lot of job loss, so only sub 15%. So there is definitely a huge disparity and a drastic difference between the two values as compared to the value that I was showing to you earlier. And because of that, there is certainty that when we look at other values from other countries in this particular section, we can see some good good outputs coming out, and the outcome from this particular section is definitely something to be exploring further. So when this report is going to be presented to the clients, we will be telling them that, okay, if you can look at these particular countries and these particular industries in those countries, you would be finding a lot more value in terms of not just the revenue, but the kind of workforce security, so to speak, that you can secure your workforce, not having to displace a lot of them, and also gaining revenue in the process. Now, one thing I would like to point out is that there is a chance that you might be thinking that why are the values so less, even though we had so many entries in our Excel spreadsheet, and that is because of Tableau. So Tableau has this function where it aggregates the values and it boils it down to a certain number of entries or data points so that you don't get overwhelmed with data essentially. And it also, another reason why this happens is because of something known as cognitive load. When we are presenting this to the clients, we would like them to not get overwhelmed with the sheer amount of data that they have presented us with or we have researched, but at the same time we want to show them the values and the essence of the values in a nutshell, not being able to lose anything of value because we are aggregating. So just to give you an example, I will show you what it would actually look like if I had all the data points on the screen. So I'm just going to go to analysis and go to aggregate measures. As you can see, the aggregate measures is right now checked. The box for that is checked. And if I uncheck this, so there we go. So now it just shows all the values from all the countries and all the industries. And as you can see, there is a huge clustering of all the different values in all the four quadrants that we have here. And the section that we had selected, which is the investment zone, you can see a lot of those values are just, forming sort of like a square in the top left corner of this particular scatter plot. And that just goes to show that, there is some sense of uniformity, and there is some sense of, okay, this is the direction that the company should be heading towards. There might be an argument that you can present that the bottom section is also showing uniform growth, and across the more job loss happens, the more revenue increases. But at the same time, this particular quadrant is focused on low revenue and low job loss, which is essentially not the basis of this project. It's going to fall out of scope, and we would not be interested in looking at that. And that is why I have avoided this section. And at the same time, I have avoided the bottom right section as well, because we would be looking more towards job loss and less towards the revenue increase, which is going to fall out of scope for this particular project. So now I'm just going to go back to the photo that I had before. And then moving on to the next visualization. That visualization is the trust guardrails or mitigating sentiment volatility. Now, as you may have seen in the data set, we had a regulation status column where we looked at the kind of regulation that those particular countries are implementing in their uh, different states and provinces, and in the different economic industries and backgrounds, and how that regulation is going to cause the shift in the trust of consumers. So for this particular visualization, I had to choose box plot diagram, because I think this is the best way to explain how exactly this works. So the way this works is that the company feels that regulation is going to kill growth in their particular markets all across the globe. So when I created this box and whisker plot, I tried to analyze the distribution of consumer trust across all these different environments. And now that the board thinks that there is a fear in the board that regulation is going to kill growth, the results were actually counterintuitive. As you can see, the strict regulation, or the regulation of that particular AI model or AI framework that is being implemented in that particular country or in that industry is very limited, or the kind of bylaws or the rules and regulations, the protocols that are being prescribed for that particular market is restricted. And because of that, consumers are actually reporting a huge level of trust. As you can see, that the median values, or the middle 50% of the values, are concentrated in sort of like the 70s to high mid 80s range. And a lot of these values you can see are clustered together. So this clustering is actually, it's tight, it's compact. It shows that strict regulation is actually a safety net. It is keeping consumer trust in the higher ranges, and it is also keeping it consistent. A lot of these people, or a lot of the consumers of these particular products in these particular markets, are satisfied with the kind of regulation that is going on in AI. And because of that, they still maintain that level of trust within the particular product that they are consuming. At the same time, when you look at something like a moderate level of regulation, so a moderate regulation level would definitely be, you're loosening up the harnesses a little bit on the kind of laws and the kind of legislations that you make for those particular AI models and the use of those models in those particular environments. As you can see that there is some level of unpredictability and some level of distrust that is slowly creeping in into the hearts and minds of people. And compared to the strict regulation, you now see that there is a huge variability. The whiskers, the lower and the upper whiskers, are so far wide apart as compared to the strict regulation status. This definitely shows that a lot of people are now unsure. A lot of people are now not very consistent in terms of how much they actually trust the AI product or the product with AI implemented into it. And some people are still a lot more loyal to those particular products, but there are also a significant number of people who are not going to be that loyal to that particular product, or they are not very sure how much of this regulation is going to impact their lives. There is uncertainty. There is a little sense of obliviousness within people. So that is why moderate is showing out to be this way from the data that has been presented. And now we move on to the last box and whisker plot, which is the lenient one. I mean, at this point, it just shows the data is just too apparent. Even the middle 50% is so far and wide. The whiskers are also so far and wide apart. It just shows that it's chaos, honestly, at this point. It's the people are not very sure. People are just losing trust. People are getting inconsistent in their approach to answering this question that, okay, do they still believe in AI, or do they still believe in these products and the company's approach to keeping AI regulated? And yeah, that is just how it just shows, that what the company thought was going to happen, the opposite of that has ended up happening. And it's all in the data. You can just see in the details of this particular data analysis that the more the company is able to regulate the kind of AI implementation they provide into these products in these geographical areas, the better it would be for them. And that is how we would be able to answer the question that our chief marketing officer for this particular company had, that if they try to implement AIs too fast, that it would destroy consumer trust. So this was my second visualization. And now moving on to the final visualization of this project, which is sort of like the backbone of this project, which is the sustainability matrix. In this particular visualization, what I'm trying to look at is the revenue increase due to AI and the human AI collaboration, and kind of like linking it back to the efficiency frontier, which was balancing profit and displacement, and how much, job loss or like the lack of it is causing revenue to increase. And at the same time, that particular revenue increase also complements the kind of human and AI tool collaboration that is going on. So it goes to show the synergy between the three things, right? And as you can see on the right, there is just a scale for the color that you see on the heat map, that lower towards the lower or dark blue color is sort of like corresponding to the lower revenue increase, but higher or towards the crimson color or the dark red color is corresponding to the revenue increase, or like higher revenue increase for that matter. So now, looking at this heat map, you might be thinking that, okay, if the human collaboration rate or the percentage of it is high, that means the revenue increase would also be high, right? That there is supposed to be some sort of a synergy between these two things. So if we were to go down by that assumption, we would have to look towards the higher end of the AI collaboration percentages. And as you can see through the slider up there, that the highest value that we have for the percentages is 58.73. So let's just look for the higher 50s or the 55% and above values. So let's see what happens. So now, as you can see that I've just highlighted one of these, 58.416 or 58.671. So these two values are pretty much close to one another. And even though now we can see that human AI collaboration rate is one of the highest in this particular data set, the average revenue increase due to AI is only 48.7%. So that is just a staggering difference, isn't it? Because we are looking at a scale of 43.5 to 76.878% for revenue increase, while in the human AI collaboration department, we only have a 58.6% correspondence with regards to a 48.7% revenue increase. So that this just goes to show that even though there was if there was an opportunity that I was supposed to present this, or when I'm going to present this to the clients, there is a chance that they think that, oh, just because there are wherever the highest, the darkest, or the most intense color of the heat map is, that is where the most synergy between these two variables would be. But that is not what the case is. The case would definitely be that we have to go through each and every one of these columns and look at the general range of what the complementing values between the revenue increase and the human AI collaboration rate actually is. So now we look towards the other end of this particular analysis for this visualization, which is the revenue increase. So if I had to take an example of, let's say, the orange or the dark red or the crimson colored columns over here. So I have three crimson columns, which is education, healthcare, and legal. So if I had to take a look at these two, now, as you can see, a lot of these values, barring the few outliers, lie in the 50 or above range, which according to human AI collaboration slider would essentially be the top 10 or maybe 20, 25% of values. So that definitely means we're going on the right track. So 50%, 50.6%, 55%, and if I go towards the other side, 56%, 55%, it just goes to show a pattern, right? And at the same time, since this is dark red, and we know that a revenue increase in the dark red region is supposed to be in the high 70s. So our theory checks out that revenue increase now for this particular cell is 74.7%. If I go towards the other side, 55.417%, human AI collaboration rate at the same time, 76.6768% revenue increase due to AI. So definitely there is some kind of correlation between these two things. And now that I have mentioned it, I would like to draw you back to the first visualization, which was the efficiency frontier. In the efficiency frontier, we saw that the main industries that were clustered in the golden corridor, which is our investment zone, are legal, education, and healthcare, right? These were mostly the kind of industries that you would find in this particular corridor. And what do you know it? Healthcare, legal, and education. So two out of the three is what we have already covered in the golden corridor. So definitely there is some sense of relativity between these two particular visualizations going on right now, and that is how I would be able to tie it back to the first visualization, and then definitely we are getting a picture now, right? So after explaining this particular visualization to the clients, I would bring them back to our dashboard, which is just generally a sense of giving them a summary that, okay, this is what our visualizations look like. And we have all these different buttons for you to play around with, look at what the industries look like, look at what the uh, the revenue increase in that particular industry looks like, and the regulation status looks like. So this is definitely going to be up to interpretation if they want to research these topics even further. And yeah, so in conclusion, from my side, I would say that the data is proving to us that this kind of investment of $100 million, first of all, is a huge investment at this stage of the creation of AI or the development of AI. At the same time, if the company is convinced that these investments are going to lead to huge gains and returns, not just in the financial department, but also in the consumer trust department, then definitely the kind of section or the kind of quadrant they should be looking at is the investment zone, which is our golden corridor. Investment in these particular countries with these particular regulation statuses that they have of their own and the industries that they have highlighted over here in this particular scatter plot would definitely be the investment zone for the company. And in order to just sum it up, I think that even though the investment might be risky from a personal opinion point of view, but this framework provides us with kind of like the guidance that if we were to invest in the golden corridor, so these like the regulated markets in these particular in industries, it would secure the financial upside that the CFO is looking for, and it would also mathematically minimize the kind of risks that they have in terms of job displacement. And also, like I have already mentioned, it also showcases that there is going to be, sort of like a saving in terms of the damage that could have been caused to their brand or the consumer trust that they have with this brand. Hope you guys were able to learn from this informational session. And before I log off, I just wanted to also point out one thing that you may have noticed throughout this particular project. I deliberately made the option or like deliberately made the decision of choosing this particular color palette because it was easy to choose a color palette that would have appealed to your eyes. But at the same time, I wanted to use a color palette that had um, the accessibility option for my colorblind viewers or people with the issue or issues of color blindness. So that is why for all these three different visualizations, I chose a color palette that appeals to the colorblind eyes as well. I hope it wasn't too much of a bother for any one of you. But with that, I would like to sign off on this particular presentation. I hope to see you all soon in another data analysis project that I would be sharing soon. I'm going to be starting on that just after I have wrapped up this one. So thank you so much for taking the time to stick with me up until this point, and I hope to see you all soon in a different project. Thank you.